The year was 2347, and humanity had only been part of the Galactic Confederation for 30 years. In that time, they had learned a hard truth. The galaxy did not welcome newcomers. It tolerated them at best and crushed them at worst. Admiral Daniel Hayes stood on the bridge of the USS Resolute, a small frigate that patrolled the outer edges of human space. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. 20 years in the Navy had taught him patience, but the message on his screen tested that patience to its limit. The Veltari Empire had sent an ultimatum. Surrender 3 colony worlds or face destruction. Commander Lisa Greer walked up beside him. She was younger than Hayes, with short brown hair and a sharp mind. She had served under him for 5 years and knew when something was wrong. "How bad is it?" she asked. Hayes handed her the datapad without a word. She read it twice, her face growing pale. "They cannot be serious," she said. "Those colonies have 2 million people. We built them from nothing." "The Veltari do not care about that," Hayes replied. "To them, we are insects. They have burned entire species from existence. 2 million humans mean nothing to creatures who have killed billions." The bridge crew worked in tense silence around them. Everyone had heard the rumors about the Veltari. They were insectoid beings, standing over 3 meters tall with armored bodies and multiple limbs. Their empire spanned 400 star systems, and their fleet numbered in the thousands. No species had ever defeated them in open war. Hayes looked out the viewport at the distant stars. Somewhere out there, a Veltari fleet was already moving toward human space. They had given humanity 72 hours to respond. After that, they would come regardless of the answer. "Send a message to Earth Command," Hayes said. "Priority 1. They need to know what is coming." 6 hours later, deep beneath the Rocky Mountains on Earth, Secretary of Defense Nathan Cole sat at the head of a long table. Around him were the most powerful military leaders on the planet. Generals, admirals, and intelligence chiefs filled every seat. The air was thick with tension. "The Veltari fleet consists of over 2,000 warships," said General Patricia Dawson. She was a woman in her 60s with iron gray hair and a face that showed no fear. "Their flagship alone outguns our entire defensive fleet. By conventional measures, we cannot win this fight." "Then we surrender?" asked Admiral Jerome Black, commander of Earth's Home Defense Forces. "We do not surrender," Nathan Cole said firmly. He was a heavyset man with a calm voice that commanded respect. "We have spent 100 years preparing for exactly this moment. The Veltari have made the worst mistake of their existence." He pressed a button on the table, and the lights dimmed. A holographic image appeared in the center of the room. It showed a massive shape hidden within an asteroid. The officers leaned forward, many of them seeing this for the first time. "Project Hurricane," Cole said. 40% of our military budget for the past century. Every piece of advanced technology we have recovered, studied, or invented has gone into this ship. Ladies and gentlemen, I present the USS Leviathan." The hologram expanded to show the full scale of the vessel. It was 12 kilometers long, dwarfing anything humanity had ever built. Its hull was covered in weapon ports, sensor arrays, and armor plating thick enough to stop a nuclear blast. "How is this possible?" Admiral Black whispered. "How did we hide something this large?" "We hollowed out Ceres," General Dawson explained. "The entire asteroid is a shipyard. We have been building the Leviathan in secret for 80 years. No alien species knows it exists. No one outside this room and the crew aboard has ever seen it." Lieutenant Commander Sarah Webb, the youngest officer present, raised her hand. "What kind of weapons does it carry?" "Everything," Dawson replied. "Railguns that can punch through any known armor. Missile batteries with smart warheads that can track targets across star systems. Point defense systems that create walls of fire no fighter can penetrate. She paused and looked around the room. But those are just the secondary weapons. The main armament consists of 12 extinction cannons. They fire beams that break apart matter at the molecular level. One shot can destroy a capital ship. A sustained burst could crack a small moon. Silence filled the room. The officers understood what they were looking at. This was not just a warship. It was a weapon of absolute destruction. Where did this technology come from? Admiral Black asked. Nathan Cole answered that question himself. In 2089, a survey team on Mars found something buried beneath the surface. A derelict spacecraft, millions of years old, from a civilization that existed before any current galactic species evolved. We have spent 2 centuries studying it. The Leviathan is built on that foundation. He stood up and looked at each officer in turn. The Velthari believe they are attacking a primitive species with a handful of ships. They expect an easy victory. Instead, they will face something their empire has never encountered. A weapon capable of destroying their entire fleet in a single engagement. What about the Galactic Council? Sarah Webb asked. Will they intervene? They have already refused, Cole replied bitterly. Non-interference protocols. They will watch the Velthari slaughter us and do nothing. They have done it before with other species. He walked to the viewport and looked out at the mountains. Humanity stands alone. We always have. But we are not weak. We are not prey. And when the Velthari come, they will learn what happens when you threaten our home. General Dawson activated her communicator. Get me Captain Ryan Mitchell on the Leviathan. Tell him to begin launch preparations. Already done, came a voice through the speaker. We've been waiting for this day. The ship is ready. The crew is ready. Just give us the order. Nathan Cole turned back to the table. His face was hard, but his eyes held a fire that none of them had seen before. Wake the Leviathan, he said. It is time for humanity to show the galaxy what we truly are. Across human space, the message spread through secure channels. Ships began moving into position. Crews reported to their stations. And deep within the asteroid series, lights flickered on in corridors that had been dark for years. The Velthari Empire had made its move. Now humanity would make theirs. The hurricane was coming. Deep within the asteroid series, Captain Ryan Mitchell walked through corridors that hummed with power. The USS Leviathan was waking up after years of waiting, and he could feel the ship coming alive around him. He was a man of 45 years, with dark hair and calm brown eyes. He had commanded warships for 2 decades, but nothing had prepared him for this vessel. The Leviathan was not just a ship. It was a force of nature given form. Captain on the bridge, announced the young officer as Mitchell stepped through the main doors. The bridge was enormous, built to handle a vessel of this size. Dozens of stations lined the walls, each one staffed by trained specialists. In the center stood a raised platform with the captain's chair, surrounded by holographic displays that showed every system on the ship. Chief Engineer Marcus Bell approached with a datapad in his hand. He was a stocky man with a bald head and grease stains on his uniform. He had spent 15 years building this ship and knew every bolt and wire. Power core is at full capacity, he reported. The singularity is stable. We have enough energy to run the main guns for 6 hours of continuous fire. Good, Mitchell replied. What about the drive systems? Faster than light engines are online. We can reach Jupiter's orbit in 4 hours once we clear the asteroid field. Mitchell nodded and turned to his weapons officer. Lieutenant Katie Sullivan sat at her station, running checks on the weapon systems. She was a small woman with red hair and freckles, but her innocent appearance hid a mind that understood destruction better than almost anyone alive. Weapons status? Mitchell asked. All 12 extinction cannons are charged and ready. Sullivan reported. Railgun batteries 1 through 40 are online. Missile tubes are loaded with full payloads. Point defense grid is active. She paused and looked up at him. Captain, I have run the simulations 1,000 times. But this will be the first time these weapons fire in actual combat. Are we really going to do this? Mitchell placed a hand on her shoulder. The Valkyrie have killed billions of sentient beings across this galaxy. They burn planets for sport. They enslave entire species. And now they want our colonies. He looked around the bridge at his crew. We did not start this fight, but we will end it. Every person on this ship volunteered because they understood what was at stake. Humanity's survival depends on what we do in the next few days. Outside the ship, massive doors began to open in the asteroid's surface. Rock and ice split apart to reveal the exit shaft that would carry the Leviathan into open space. Workers in the hidden shipyard watched from observation decks as the greatest achievement of human engineering prepared to launch in the fighter bay. Lieutenant Derek Cole climbed into his combat craft. He was young, only 28, with his father's strong jaw and his mother's blue eyes. Nathan Cole had tried to keep his son out of this mission, but Derek had refused. If Earth is going to war, I will be there, he had told his father. This is my fight too. His squadron consisted of 40 pilots, each one among the best in the human fleet. Their fighters were small and fast, designed to slip through enemy defenses and strike at weak points. They would not win the battle alone, but they could turn the tide at critical moments. Derek ran through his pre-flight checks and opened a channel to his wingman. All pilots report ready status. One by one, 40 voices confirmed they were prepared. Derek felt pride swell in his chest. These men and women were willing to die for humanity. He hoped it would not come to that. On the bridge, Captain Mitchell received a transmission from Earth. Admiral Daniel Hayes appeared on the main screen, his face tired but determined. Captain Mitchell, I have been given command of the conventional fleet, Hayes said. 47 ships. We both know that is not enough to stop the Valkyrie. It does not have to be enough, Mitchell replied. Your job is to draw them in, make them commit their full force. When they think victory is certain, we will arrive. Hayes nodded slowly. My crew understands the risk. We will hold the line for as long as it takes. Admiral, I promise you this. The Leviathan will not be late. When we arrive, the Valkyrie will learn why humanity should never have been threatened. The transmission ended, and Mitchell sat in his command chair. Around him, the final preparations continued. Power levels climbed. Navigation systems plotted their course. The massive engines at the rear of the ship began to glow with contained energy. Meanwhile, across the void of space, Sovereign Kethril stood on the bridge of his flagship. The Burning Claw. He was a massive creature, even by Valkyrie standards. His exoskeleton was black as night, and his compound eyes glittered with cruel intelligence. The humans are gathering their fleet near Jupiter, reported one of his officers. 47 vessels, mostly frigates and destroyers. No capital ships larger than a cruiser. Kethril made a sound that passed for laughter among his species. It was a harsh clicking noise that echoed through the command chamber. 47 ships against 2,000, he said. The humans are either brave or stupid. Perhaps both. Shall we engage immediately, Sovereign? No, let them gather. Let them believe they have a chance. It makes the killing more satisfying when hope dies in their eyes. He turned to face his assembled commanders. The Galactic Council watches us. Other species doubt our power because we have not fought a real war in centuries. The humans give us a gift. A chance to remind the galaxy why the Valkyrie Empire is feared. His officers struck their chest plates in salute. The Valkyrie fleet continued its advance toward human space. 2,000 warships moving like a plague of locusts across the stars. Back on the Leviathan, Captain Mitchell watched the final countdown on his display. The asteroid doors had fully opened. Clear space waited beyond. "All hands, this is the captain," he announced over the ship-wide channel. "For 80 years, this ship has waited in the dark. Generations of humans have worked and sacrificed to build her. Today, we honor that sacrifice." He paused, letting his words sink in. "The Velthari believe we are weak. They believe we will break. They are wrong. Humanity has survived ice ages, plagues, and wars. We have clawed our way from caves to the stars. And we will not bow to anyone." The crew listened in silence, their hearts beating with shared purpose. "Launch stations," Mitchell ordered. "Take us out." The USS Leviathan moved forward, sliding out of its berth like a predator emerging from its den. Its hull cleared the asteroid field, and for the first time in its existence, the ship tasted open space. The hurricane had awakened, and it was hungry for war. Admiral Daniel Hayes watched the enemy fleet drop out of hyperspace, and his blood ran cold. The tactical display showed over 2,000 red dots spreading across the screen like a disease. Each dot was a warship. Each warship wanted humanity dead. "All ships, hold position," he ordered through the fleet channel. "Do not fire until they enter optimal range." Commander Lisa Greer stood beside him, her hands gripping the railing hard enough to turn her knuckles white. "Admiral, they outnumber us 40-1. Our shields cannot take sustained fire from their plasma lances." "I know," Hayes replied quietly. "But we only need to hold for 6 hours. 6 hours until the Leviathan arrives." The human fleet had arranged itself near Jupiter, using the gas giant's powerful radiation to scramble enemy sensors. 47 ships formed a defensive line, their crews knowing that many of them would not survive the day. On the Velthari flagship, Sovereign Cathrall studied the human formation with something close to disappointment. He had hoped for more of a challenge. "They hide behind a planet's radiation like frightened animals," he said. "Send the forward squadrons. Flush them out." 300 Velthari destroyers surged forward, their engines burning bright against the darkness of space. They fired as they came, plasma lances cutting through the void in deadly arcs. The first human frigate exploded. Then another. Then a third. "Return fire," Hayes commanded. "Target their lead ships." Human railguns roared to life, sending tungsten slugs across space at incredible speeds. A Velthari destroyer took multiple hits and broke apart. 2 more followed, but for every enemy ship destroyed, humanity lost 2 of their own. Lieutenant Derek Cole led his fighter squadron into the chaos. His small craft dodged plasma fire and debris as he searched for his target, a Velthari carrier launching fighters of its own. "Blue Squadron, on me," he called. "We are going for their carrier. Watch for point defense fire." 40 fighters screamed toward the massive enemy vessel. Velthari defense guns tracked them, filling space with deadly energy. 3 of Derek's pilots died in seconds. Their ships vaporized, but the rest got through. Derek fired his missiles at the carrier's exposed fighter bay. The explosions tore through the launch deck and reached the fuel storage. A chain reaction followed, and the entire carrier disappeared in a ball of fire. "Direct hit," Derek reported. "Carrier destroyed." On the bridge of the Burning Claw, Sovereign Cathrall felt a flicker of surprise. The humans had destroyed one of his carriers. It was the first Velthari capital ship lost in combat in over 200 years. "Interesting," he muttered. "Perhaps the insects have some fight in them after all." He gave new orders, and the Velthari fleet adjusted its approach. More ships moved forward, overwhelming the human defensive line with sheer numbers. Admiral Hayes watched his fleet shrink ship by ship. The USS Vigilance took a direct hit and lost power. The USS Defiant rammed a Valkyrie cruiser to save a damaged ally. The USS Honor held its position even as fires burned across its hull. "Admiral, we have lost 18 ships," Greer reported, her voice strained. "At this rate, we will not last 6 hours." "Then we adapt," Hayes replied. "Order all ships to fall back toward Europa. Use the moon's mass as cover." The human fleet retreated, but it was not a rout. Every ship that could still fire continued to fight. Wounded vessels covered the withdrawal of their more damaged companions. Crews stayed at their posts even when death seemed certain. Lieutenant Cole and his remaining fighters provided cover, drawing enemy attention away from the larger ships. He had lost 15 pilots already, but the survivors fought with desperate courage. "Keep moving," Derek ordered. "Do not give them easy targets." In the Galactic Council chamber, far from the battle, representatives from dozens of species watched the fight unfold. Most expected a quick human defeat. Instead, they saw something that confused and troubled them. The humans were losing, but they were not breaking. Ambassador Gregory Nash, humanity's representative, sat in his designated seat with a calm expression. Other ambassadors whispered among themselves, wondering why he showed no fear. A Thraxi delegate, a creature resembling a bipedal lizard, approached Nash during a pause in the broadcasts. "Your species is being destroyed," the Thraxi said. "Why do you sit there smiling?" Nash looked at the alien with steady eyes. "The battle is not over yet. Your fleet cannot win. The mathematics are simple." "Mathematics," Nash repeated thoughtfully. "Yes, the Valkyrie are very good at mathematics. They count their ships and see victory. They count our ships and see defeat." He leaned forward slightly, "but they have not counted everything." Back at Jupiter, 4 hours had passed. The human fleet had been reduced to 23 ships. Admiral Hayes had moved to a secondary command center after the bridge took damage. Blood ran down his forehead from a wound he had not bothered to treat. "The Leviathan is 2 hours out," Greer told him. "Can we hold that long?" Hayes looked at the tactical display. The Valkyrie were pushing hard now, sensing final victory. Their fleet had lost maybe 50 ships, a small price for the complete destruction of human military power. "We hold," Hayes said firmly, "because we have no other choice." He opened a channel to all remaining ships. "This is Admiral Hayes. I know you are tired. I know you are scared. Many of our friends have died today, but every minute we survive is a minute closer to victory. The Leviathan is coming. We just have to give her time." The crews of 23 ships heard his words and found new strength. Damaged guns fired again. Shields that should have failed held a little longer. Pilots flew missions they knew were suicide and somehow came back alive. Sovereign Kethral grew impatient. The humans should have broken by now. Every other species had surrendered or fled when faced with Valkyrie might. But these creatures kept fighting. "Enough games," he declared. "All ships, full advance. Destroy them completely." 2,000 warships surged forward for the final assault. The human defensive line began to crumble under the onslaught. Admiral Hayes prepared to give the order to abandon ship. Then his sensor officer shouted words that changed everything. "Admiral, massive energy signature detected. Something is coming out of hyperspace." Hayes looked at the display and felt tears form in his eyes. A single blue dot appeared behind the Valkyrie fleet, but it was the largest dot the sensors had ever registered. The USS Leviathan had arrived, and it opened fire immediately. 4 Valkyrie destroyers vanished in the first blast. Their atoms scattered across space. The remaining enemy ships began to turn, finally understanding that they had made a terrible mistake. The hurricane had descended, and the galaxy would never be the same. Sovereign Kethral stared at his tactical display and felt something he had never experienced in 3 centuries of warfare. Fear, The human ship that had just appeared behind his fleet was impossible. It was 12 kilometers long, larger than any warship in recorded galactic history. Its weapons were firing with a power output that defied everything the Valkyrie knew about human technology. "What is that thing?" he demanded. "Where did it come from?" His officers had no answers. They could only watch as 4 more of their destroyers disappeared in a flash of molecular destruction. On the bridge of the USS Leviathan, Captain Ryan Mitchell gave orders with calm precision. His crew worked their stations like a well-trained machine, each person knowing exactly what to do. "Target their cruiser formation on the left flank," Mitchell commanded. "Extinction cannons 3 and 4 fire." Weapons Officer Katie Sullivan pressed the firing controls. 2 beams of pure destructive energy lanced across space, striking 3 Valkyrie cruisers simultaneously. The ships did not explode in the traditional sense. They simply came apart, their molecular bonds shattered by the weapon's effect. "Targets eliminated," Sullivan reported. "Cannon recharge at 80%. Railgun batteries, engage their fighter screens. Point defense, keep the missiles off our hull." The Leviathan moved through the enemy fleet like a predator among prey. Its massive hull shrugged off plasma lance fire that would have destroyed any other ship. Valkyrie weapons that had burned worlds barely scratched the armor. Chief Engineer Marcus Bell monitored the power systems from his station in engineering. The quantum singularity at the heart of the ship pulsed with contained energy, feeding power to weapons and shields without strain. "Hull integrity at 98%, he reported. "Their weapons are not even reaching the inner armor layers. We could take this kind of fire for days." Admiral Hayes watched from his damaged bridge as the Leviathan carved a path of destruction through the enemy formation. Tears of relief streamed down his face. "All human ships, regroup on the Leviathan's position," he ordered. "Provide support fire and assist with crippled enemy vessels." Commander Greer stood beside him, her eyes wide with amazement. "Admiral, the Valkyrie are trying to concentrate fire on the Leviathan. It is not working." "Nothing they have will work," Hayes replied. "That ship was built to fight enemies far more dangerous than the Valkyrie. They have no idea what they are facing." On the Burning Claw, Sovereign Kethrol struggled to maintain control of the battle. His fleet was in chaos. Ships were breaking formation, some trying to attack the Leviathan, others attempting to flee. "All ships, coordinate fire on the human vessel," he commanded. "Focus on their engine section." 500 Valkyrie warships turned their weapons on the Leviathan's rear. Plasma lances, missiles, and kinetic rounds converged in a storm of destruction. The Leviathan's shields flared bright as they absorbed the assault. Then the shields dropped. For one brief moment, Kethrol felt hope surge through his body. The human ship was vulnerable. That hope died when the Leviathan's point defense grid activated. Thousands of small guns fired simultaneously, creating a wall of defensive fire that destroyed every missile and deflected every kinetic round. The plasma lances splashed against secondary armor that was 5 meters thick. The Leviathan did not even slow down. Their shields were bait, one of Kethrol's officers realized with horror. "They let us waste our ammunition on nothing." Mitchell allowed himself a small smile. The tactical systems had predicted exactly how the Valkyrie would respond. Now their concentrated formation made them perfect targets. "All extinction cannons, fire at will," he ordered. "Clear the field." 12 beams of molecular destruction swept across the Valkyrie formation. Each shot destroyed multiple ships. Within minutes, over 200 enemy vessels had been reduced to expanding clouds of particles. Lieutenant Derek Cole and his surviving fighters watched from a safe distance. They had done their part. Now they could only observe as the Leviathan did what it was designed to do. "I never imagined anything like this," Derek whispered over his private channel. We built a ship that can destroy fleets by itself. The Velthari fleet began to fall apart. Some ships tried to flee, engaging their faster-than-light drives in desperate attempts to escape. The Leviathan's long-range weapons caught most of them. Those that escaped would carry word of this disaster back to the Empire. Dutch sovereign Kethril watched his fleet die around him. Ships that had served him for centuries were being swatted from existence like insects. The irony was not lost on him. For so long, the Velthari had treated other species as insects to be crushed. Now they were experiencing the same fate. "Sovereign, we have lost over 1,000 ships," his first officer reported. "We must retreat." "There is nowhere to retreat to," Kethril replied bitterly. "That human ship is faster than anything we have. If we run, it will hunt us down." He made a decision that would be remembered in Velthari history as either brave or foolish. "Set course for the human vessel," he commanded. "Maximum speed. We will ram them." The Burning Claw accelerated toward the Leviathan, its engines burning at full power. Other Velthari ships saw their leaders charge and followed, hoping that mass alone could accomplish what weapons could not. Captain Mitchell observed the incoming attack with professional interest. "They are attempting a ramming maneuver," he noted. "Brave, but pointless. Should I target the flagship?" Sullivan asked. "Let them come closer. I want their sovereign to see what he is dealing with." The Burning Claw close to within 50 kilometers, then 30, then 10. Sovereign Kethril stood at his viewport, watching the massive human ship grow larger and larger. He saw the weapon ports tracking his vessel. He saw the massive extinction cannons adjusting their aim. And in that moment, he understood that his empire had made a terrible mistake. "Fire," Mitchell ordered. The Burning Claw disappeared. One moment it was there. The next it was simply gone. The beam had struck so precisely that nothing remained, not even debris. With their leader dead and their fleet in ruins, the surviving Velthari ships surrendered or fled. The battle that was supposed to end humanity became the greatest defeat in Velthari history. Admiral Hayes brought his damaged ship alongside the Leviathan. He requested permission to come aboard, and Captain Mitchell granted it. The two men met on the Leviathan's observation deck, looking out at the field of debris that had once been an enemy armada. "How many did we lose?" Mitchell asked. 24 ships. Over 3,000 crew members." Hayes' voice was heavy with grief. "But without the Leviathan, we would have lost everything." Mitchell nodded slowly. "Their sacrifice will be remembered. Every person who died today helped buy time for humanity's survival." In the Galactic Council chamber, Ambassador Gregory Nash rose from his seat and walked to the speaking platform. The assembled alien representatives watched in stunned silence. They had just witnessed the impossible. "The Velthari Empire sent 2,000 warships to destroy humanity," Nash began. "They believed we were weak. They believed we would break." He paused, letting the words hang in the air. "They were wrong. Humanity does not break. We do not surrender. And we do not forgive those who threaten our home." His voice hardened. "Let this be a lesson to every species in this galaxy. Leave humanity in peace, and we will be your friends. Threaten us, and you will face the hurricane. There will be no mercy. There will be no second chances. There will only be annihilation." The chamber remained silent. For the first time in galactic history, species that had looked down on humans felt something new. They felt afraid. The news of the Battle of Jupiter's Shadow spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Within hours, every spacefaring civilization knew what had happened. The mighty Velthari Empire had sent a fleet to crush humanity and had been utterly destroyed instead. On the Velthari homeworld, panic gripped the ruling council. Their entire expeditionary force was gone. Sovereign Kethril, the greatest military commander in their history, was dead. And somewhere in human space, a ship existed that could challenge their entire remaining fleet. The new sovereign, a young female named Shethra, made a decision that shocked her people. She ordered all Velthari forces to return to their home systems immediately. There would be no further attacks on humanity. "We have awakened something terrible," she told her council. "Our ancestors burned 100 species from existence. Now we understand what it feels like to be on the other side." 1 week after the battle, Captain Ryan Mitchell stood in a quiet memorial garden aboard the Leviathan. The names of every human who died in the fight were engraved on a black stone wall. He came here every day to read them. Chief Engineer Marcus Bell found him there as the artificial lights dimmed to simulate evening. "Captain, the ship is back to full operational status," Bell reported. "All systems are repaired. We are ready for whatever comes next." Mitchell did not turn around. "Sometimes I wonder if we built something we should not have, Marcus. The power to destroy fleets with a single ship. The power to end civilizations. We did not build it for conquest," Bell replied. "We built it for survival. There is a difference." "I hope so." Mitchell finally turned to face his engineer. "Because other species will look at what we did and see only the destruction. They will not see the centuries of fear that drove us to create this weapon." On Earth, celebrations filled the streets of every major city. Humanity had faced extinction and survived. Politicians gave speeches about victory and courage. News networks showed footage of the Leviathan over and over, praising the ship that had saved them all. But Secretary of Defense Nathan Cole felt no joy. He sat alone in his office, reading reports of the human casualties. 3,000 people had died in the battle. Entire families had lost fathers, mothers, sons, and daughters. His son Derek walked in without knocking. The young lieutenant still wore his flight suit, having just returned from the memorial services. "You saved us all, you know," Derek said. "Project Hurricane worked exactly as planned." "I know," Nathan replied. "But I keep thinking about what comes next. The Velthari were not the only dangerous species in this galaxy. Now everyone knows what we can do. Some will respect that power. Others will try to find ways to counter it." Derek sat down across from his father. "Then we build more ships. We get stronger. We make sure no one ever threatens Earth again." "That is exactly what I am afraid of," Nathan admitted. "Power like this changes people. It changes civilizations. I hope we have the wisdom to use it correctly." In the months that followed, humanity's position in the galaxy transformed completely. Species that had dismissed them as primitives now sent ambassadors seeking trade agreements and alliances. The Galactic Council granted humanity full membership status with all associated rights and privileges. Admiral Daniel Hayes received promotion to Fleet Admiral and took command of all human military forces. He spent his days overseeing the expansion of Earth's navy, ensuring that the Leviathan would never stand alone again. 3 more Hurricane-class battleships were under construction in hidden shipyards throughout the solar system. The USS Tempest, the USS Typhoon, and the USS Maelstrom would join their sister ship within the decade. Commander Lisa Greer earned her own command, a new destroyer called the USS Guardian. She assembled a crew of veterans from the Battle of Jupiter's Shadow, men and women who had proven themselves under fire. "We survived the worst day in human history," she told her crew on their first voyage. "Everything else will be easy by comparison." Ambassador Gregory Nash navigated the complicated politics of the Galactic Council with skill and patience. He built relationships with species that had once ignored humanity, while maintaining a firm stance against those who showed hostility. During one council session, a Thraxi delegate asked him a question that many species wanted answered. "Your ship, the Leviathan, is it the only one of its kind? Or are there more?" Nash smiled politely. "The Leviathan is certainly unique. As for whether there are others, well, that is information I am not at liberty to share. The ambiguity was intentional. Let the galaxy wonder. Let them assume humanity had more weapons hidden away. Fear was a useful tool when wielded correctly. Deep beneath Mars, in the same cavern where the ancient derelict had been discovered, Dr. Michel Torres led a team of scientists studying the alien technology. The Leviathan had been built using only a fraction of what they had learned. There was so much more to understand. This civilization was millions of years ahead of us, Torres told her colleagues. They had weapons that could sterilize planets from light years away. They had shields that could withstand the heart of a star. And somehow, they still went extinct. What killed them? Asked one of her junior researchers. We do not know yet. But whatever it was, it is still out there somewhere. The galaxy is old and full of secrets. We have only scratched the surface. Her words cast a shadow over the celebration of humanity's victory. The Valkyrie had been a threat, but they were a known threat. What else lurked in the darkness between stars? 1 year after the battle, Captain Mitchell brought the Leviathan on a ceremonial tour of human colony worlds. Everywhere the ship went, crowds gathered to see the vessel that had saved their species. On the colony of New Haven, Mitchell gave a speech to thousands of settlers who had faced evacuation orders before the Valkyrie were defeated. This ship was not built by heroes, he told them. It was built by ordinary people who believed that humanity deserved to survive. Engineers who worked 20-hour days. Scientists who spent their lives solving impossible problems. Workers who kept the secret for generations. He gestured toward the massive ship visible through the colony's transparent dome. The Leviathan is not just metal and weapons. It is a promise. A promise that we will protect our people, no matter the cost. A promise that we will never again be caught unprepared. A promise that anyone who threatens humanity will face consequences beyond their imagination. The crowd cheered, but Mitchell's face remained serious. We are not conquerors, he continued. We do not seek to rule the galaxy or destroy other species. We only ask to live in peace, to raise our families, to build our future. But peace must be defended. Sometimes it must be fought for. He paused, looking out at the faces of colonists who had come so close to losing everything. The hurricane sleeps again. Let us hope it never needs to wake. But know this, if any force threatens humanity's children, the hurricane will rise once more. And it will not stop until our people are safe. The Leviathan returned to Ceres, settling back into its hidden berth. The massive ship powered down, its weapons cooling, its crew rotating home for rest. But deep within its hull, the quantum singularity continued to pulse with contained power. The extinction cannon stood ready. The armor remained strong. The systems waited patiently for the next threat. Humanity had sent a message to the galaxy. They were not prey. They were not victims. They were survivors who had clawed their way from the mud of a single planet to stand among the stars. And anyone who forgot that lesson would learn it again. In fire. In destruction. In total annihilation. The hurricane had spoken. The galaxy had listened. And humanity's future stretched out before them, bright and dangerous and full of infinite possibility. This was only the beginning.